Let's absolutely go. All the prediction, everybody has been talking about this is going to be the 3-game series of the day. And Rebel, we're here. We are at match point. No matter what, one of these teams punches their ticket to LA.
It is a circumstance that, like, it bodes so much of your mental capacity, right? You can think about the future. You can think about all these other things that are coming about. You can think about graduation. You can think about school. All that has to be cleared because the only thing that matters is smashing the team that is in front of you right this second. You're not thinking about LA as much as you would want to. That's got to be a motivator for you, but, like, you got to put it out of your mind. Your number one concern, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, beat the other team. Oh, there's nothing else to it, right? It is how do we beat this team right here and right now? The rest comes later. That is everything. Every coach I've ever talked to has had this exact same mindset where they're always about preparing for what's in front of them and never thinking about what's in the future. Show it to me. Show me what you got when it comes to being able to prepare for a 1-game series when your life is on the line inside of collegiate like this.
Well, I'm going to put it out there. We've seen a lot so far in this series. We've seen Harrisburg have their own steadfast presence to make sure that they stay to their strategy. They stay true to it. They stay solid and consistent throughout time. But then we got to see in game number 2, what kind of mental resilience do you have from the side of Michigan State, right? Like, we have a side between the two of them as well.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I'm excited, Rebel. I'm excited.
Okay, so now you have things like what ADCs on the side of MSU have you been banning that you would want to keep in your wheelhouse, right? They banned Jinx both games in a row. You know, Volibear's been taken away 2 games in a row. I think Volibear stays because I don't think you're giving that one over to Zile. But now, okay, they also don't want to play Jinx. They don't think that Zethal's going to want to play it. They don't think it's strong, but they don't want to give it over to Hopefulx either. So, you know, in this particular circumstance, nothing has changed so far about their draft. So it's about that 3rd pick now and whether or not that's something that is more focused at Harrisburg, whether that's something that is, you know, going to set themselves up for a B1 pick potentially.
I think this is a solid strategy for them to go stick with a lot of what you have. The same old is going to be able to work, and you can argue. I mean, for Harrisburg inside that last game, they had a 10K advantage, and the gold lead never left their side. Even at the end of the game, it was just even, right? Like,
it was.
You think about it, and Harrisburg probably looked back at it and like, all right, we need to take some deep breaths. We need to be the team that kind of resuscitates ourselves, because that's a hard loss to take.
It is. Now, interestingly, the victor gets taken off the board. Instead of the Volibear, instead of anything else, they're going to grab that one up, which is of interest. Because, again, they've run Ivern mid 2 games in a row now. I don't think it had a particularly great game number 1, and it definitely didn't have most of a great game in game number 2, despite some of the late-game shenanigans with shielding and healing that was coming out, basically like half-healthing for anybody very, very low health. So it's a question of whether they continue to run that back. That seemed to be the strategy that they were really prepared for, was Lanse bringing that one in. But it hadn't worked inside the laning phase against Emps in either of these last 2 games, so maybe they have to change that up.
I feel like that might be something you have to do. Volibear is still banned as well, so saying, all right, we don't want that scaling. What does Michigan State first pick for themselves? It's been so much spice whenever we look over at them. Did they just grab the Misfortune right off the get-go?
I think Misfortune is a strong opening to a draft like this, just because, again, you don't want to reveal too much about what your composition is going to do, and I think Zethal, he did it last time by blinding it. I don't think it's unrealistic. You're definitely not going to something like Gnar to kick off the draft like your MSU, so my anticipation really does have to be, I think bot lane is probably the best way to go, because it's giving the least information. If you can flex Ivern, maybe Ivern is the play. If you can put it in the jungle, or maybe you can put it into support, like, that's the only other option, but, like, yeah, Misfortune, I think it's the most blanket pick you can take here without a true amazing response from Harrisburg. I think the laning phase actually didn't go crazy for Hopefulx with the Samira. Like, they weren't able to punish the pure 2v2, I think, as much as they wanted. So that was at least a little bit surprising. We are really into the Gnar today for Harrisburg. Wow. They are just constantly shoving this champion. And I'm curious whether or not Michigan has something for Sunlight in specifically the one-on-one they could try to punish this, because this is the 3rd time in a row.
Yeah, this is the 3rd time in a row that they've just grabbed the Gnar, and it's so shocking to me, too, because I know Lawrence is really good at the champion, and he had a great game, too, in terms of, like, the early game fights and the mid-game fights that he was able to Gnar out on, but it's a hard champion to pilot at times. Run it back on the Aphelios, brought them success in game number 1.
Supposed to be one of these scaling picks. Going to be helpful if you've got the right support matchup alongside it for the bottom lane against the Misfortune. But this is a very powerful early game champion. Can provide some poke. Not the most mobile of champions either. Is the Aphelios, to be able to punish the positioning, and so the Misfortune can actually do quite a bit if you've got the right lane setup. So you have to imagine top. I don't think Wukong is ridiculous. Again, there's still flexibility to the jungle, but this is likely to go into the hands of Sunlight, and that's a question of whether you want to give away your 2v2 in the bottom, in the bottom lane to give potential for Harrisburg to counter pick it so that the Aphelios feels better in the laning phase. They can set up Hopefulx for carrying, or do you go to something in the mid lane, which I imagine being a better option than the jungle at this point? It appears as though they're looking at that 2v2, just the Nautilus.
Oh.
That's more interesting. Oh. Okay.
So that's a Maokai support coming out. That is, as you said, very interesting.
As much as I also want to say that it's Maokai support, the possibility of it getting flexed somewhere else is high, right? Like, it is entirely possible that this is the case. So
the play rate for Maokai is really bad.
The play rate's really bad, and it's because he's not like the best champion at the moment, which is a bit of a problem. So they prepared it with some intention. Now, in fairness, also like having a point-and-click route combined with another route off of his ultimate, and then you press Misfortune ultimate. It's akin to like the Ashe Misfortune or like the Zyra Misfortune from back in the day, where somebody gets rooted and then you drop an ult and then they die and there's nothing else to do. Maokai could do exactly that, but it's like a point and click on your body to be able to actually do that with. It's not a skill shot of any kind, so you don't have to worry about missing. So that's probably my idea if they go for it, is that like they can put somebody tank into the bottom lane for Argentum. He has a kind of the ability to attack from range, disengage melee champions, things along those lines, while simultaneously setting up Misfortune for success.
I'm very curious. This is the first time we haven't had an Ivern picked right off the early rotation, but we do see Trundle back again for Zile. Zile had a fantastic, monstrous performance in this Trundle in game number 1. Running it back can be a bit scary. I'm looking at some of these support bans. I'm curious if they ban Tahm Kench, because that was, I think, the pairing that they did together with the Aphelios time too.
If they do that, well, I think game 1, yeah, it was something along those lines, and it helped out with defenses. The thing is that you have no idea exactly what it is that you're going against, because the Maokai could still be flexed if you really wanted it to be. So I think Tahm Kench makes a lot of sense, because it's like you can get rooted as Tahm Kench if you swallowed the Aphelios, but ultimately protecting him from the bullet time is really what you want, and there should be enough after the full duration comes through. You do have the problem of, like, from melee range, like, Maokai can do some things when it comes to CC, can have some poke damage with, like, the saplings in the early laning phase if you do something like the Imperial Mandate for whatever reason, but, again, it's a little bit confusing, but ultimately, I think the Tahm Kench makes so much sense to just deny aggression onto Aphelios specifically that otherwise, like, might actually be there. That's a pick. All right. This is not unexpected. I think that finally we've arrived at the time where RBM wants something to specifically counter what it was that Zile was going to bring out. Zile has played the Trundle consistently, and now you see the Kindred counterpick. This is something that DMK on base state has been running very consistently and has been a popular counterpick into a lot of AD junglers for a long time, and this is a pick that I think RBM has now prepared specifically for this matchup, where he's able to get the counter matchup up against the Trundle and put pressure onto Zile specifically.
Yeah, the counter pick coming in clutch for them. And you also see the Syndra blind come in. It's a great pick for Lance, but also on the other side, Emps just, yet again, goes for something that is true standard for themselves, going for the Orianna, the team fight presence that is available for Harrisburg Storm. This is a composition that plays to a very simple objective, and it screams. This is a composition that Harrisburg has probably played hundreds and hundreds of times.
This is true. It's a very standard type composition. It's Zile on his Trundle to be able to affect the lanes to begin with. But the big thing is, we talked about pulling in the restraints a little bit when it comes to the compositional design of MSU. Thinking like, okay, we don't need 4 champions that are wild to their position. You don't need that much insanity. You just need a little bit sprinkled in with like consistent play elsewhere. Lance going back to Syndra. Huge pick for him. Helps with lighting setup for able to be like set up Kindred for ganks and things. You have the same thing for Maokai once the level 6 has arrived. The E for Misfortune helps as well, and the Wukong has own self setup for be able to set up ganks. RBM is being played to immaculately here to set him up for a massive carry performance. They are putting it into their experienced jungle, into their senior who is graduating, ready to go get a graduate degree in math. They are preparing Peyton to try to full lift this team into the right position.
It feels like it is a big task, though. Harrisburg looking monumental. We've talked about it over the night. And I want to just talk about the fact that Harrisburg have been in complete control of game number 2 until it started that one fight. And it just felt like they couldn't get back into it. There was something that was just not enabled for them from that point forward. Harrisburg has been on top of their game. We've talked about it time and time again. Playoffs buff Harrisburg is a different beast. And right now, they need that beast to come out. They have a composition here almost the same as game number 1 draft in which they won.
They did. The big difference, I think, is that without all this nonsense that's kind of clouding up what it is that MSU wants to do with their composition, MSU has a very clear identity at the beginning of the game. They can push. They can aggress against later scaling champions. Zile has to do a much better job, similar akin to what happened in game 1, of denying early pressure, denying any snowball from coming through. This is the hardest game that Harrisburg has had so far, in my opinion, for denying an early snowball, not only given the champions they picked, but given the champions that are against them at MSU right this second. It's incredible to think about that this is the strategy that MSU is going to employ walking into this one. This to me actually feels more like a game 1 comp, and then when you win game 1, you get a little bit wacky to try for something else. But this is a game Harrisburg needs to help control. They need to get back to that pre-15-minute game 2, game 1 strategy of deny, deny, deny.
Listen, you can even see that little fun fact, Syndra 5-1-5 in their matchup. And the Syndra. And oh man, we are game number 3. One team goes and stays at home while the other one is able to get their ticket and go on to LA. I want to know who's Twitch chat voting for. I want to know who is Twitch chat pulling for. I'm curious if they're going for Harrisburg Storm or if they're going for Michigan State.
And I want to make note really quickly. There's a couple ways that you can play Maokai, because there is no good way to play Maokai, right? This is Poke Maokai. This is Comet. This is Spell Thief. I know it was a joke, and it's intended entirely. I like Maokai a lot, but he's not that strong. Let's get that. Argentum
my
goes
heart
for
over here, Rebel.
poking Maokai. Yeah, he goes for poking Maokai. The double Comet bot lane, the saplings are going to do an unreal amount of damage to Hopefulx. It is likely to be Imperial Mandate to kick things off, and it means high levels of single target damage onto Hopefulx can be brought out by just the passive of Misfortune coming through with a single auto attack, a Q bouncing off a minion, and just a little bit of chip damage from some of the abilities from that Maokai. It's a dangerous place to be. You can test positioning a lot differently. The problem is, obviously, you're a little bit squishier than a normal Maokai. You can't use your abilities as aggressively to set up for very kind of front foot engagements, be able to be the first one into an engagement as well, be that front side tank that normally Maokai was known for the majority of his lifespan. But this is a lot more damage and threat in the laning phase against this Aphelios.
It also gives you like a lot of just bush control, right? And we've seen that Loopk will play around those bushes. Not this game. He says, "Nuh-uh, I'm staying towards the river. River's my new friend."
Necessary as well.
Very necessary.
For multiple
yeah.
reasons. The biggest one is that I don't think they're anticipating a level 2 gank coming out into bot lane from Kindred, from RBM. It is instead the level 2 gank going into top side from RBM as he goes for the take of the top side Krugs. Lawrence is pushed up. This is something they haven't really done either. They haven't punished Lawrence's laning phase all that much as the mini Gnar. In fact, actually what they might be doing here is trying to goad Lawrence into another level 3 play where he jumps into Sunlight. But the thing is, now RBM is here. RBM is here, ready to punish the Gnar when he turns out. If the leap is used, unfortunately, in a wrong circumstance. If Sunlight can bait this and get him to engage at level 3, things are problematic, right? Things are very problematic.
Looks like this time Lawrence doesn't take the bait, smells something's fishy, and will be spotted out on the ward. So they will have they didn't get him on the ward. It wasn't deep enough.
No.
So they don't even know he was up there.
No, they don't. It was a quick back coming through from Zile, who's able to find like a ruby crystal and then just like nothing, like an additional ward. That's another thing. Zile had backed. It cleared from, it actually looks like he just like full cleared the majority of the jungle except for the Krug camp, which had come through, and it's going to go up to his Krugs now. But the thing is, RBM is going to path down towards bot lane where the Scuttle Crab is, which is of interest. I was curious, actually, he's not going to do that. He's going to stay on top side, grab the top side Scuttle Crab, noticing that Zile hadn't taken it, and he's going to poke his way back into top side, but now they're going to catch him with that ward.
Yeah, they're going to catch him on the ward. RBM is going to notice. Just put down this control ward. Something smells fishy. And Trundle is going to be able to spot him out. So first stack, Zile probably just going to beeline it over there. Just be like, nope, not taking any of that.
I was expecting him to play a lot more around that stack on the bottom side of the map, but it looks like the Misfortune and the Maokai are actually getting shoved in pretty hard, which is surprising because if Lance has decent push in mid lane. If you wanted to, you could just sack a little bit of health trade from the Orianna, and you could just shove out the mid wave and be in river immediately and take that into like a 2v1 scenario up against the Trundle. But here, RBM slow plays the situation, instead just opts for taking the top side scuttle, poking into top lane, freeing up sunlight a little bit, and then clearing fully back to the bottom side.
Makes a lot of sense. Get those itemizations, that way you can get those stats. There would be crystal. The mark was put onto the Trundle as well, so you do know that RBM does want to aggress there. It's definitely where the sights are set. Wants to go ahead and put Zile behind on this Trundle, but wants the items, wants the money to be able to do such.
I'm waiting also because, again, Zile's whole job is to try to prevent aggression from coming in a game like this. He's pretty much the only early game that they've got for the most part, outside of just individual laning differences that can come through. So I'm waiting to see where Zile first strikes. I had complaints about Zile in the previous tournament and in Harrisburg's previous iterations about how he was sometimes a little bit slow to get onto the map. There were times where he would take 10-15 minutes to make his first real lane impact when he's on champions like Xin Zhao or Lee Sin in the early game. That has not been the case at all at this tournament. He's been fantastic about making early effects, but there was a time and a place where I had that worry about him, and I'm hoping that doesn't actually come to light once again, because he's been performing much better at this event. So my expectation is Zile needs to find somewhere to affect his lanes. He doesn't want to interact with RBM all that much. He doesn't want to fight against the Kindred. Instead, he just wants to put a pillar down, draw some summoner spells, and go crazy. Sunlight has a
Sunlight!
chance.
What a juke to come out. The Ignite is ticking, trying to flash away. Doesn't get thrown up against the wall. Sunlight! First blood!
Oh my goodness, bottom lane. Okay, they're not going to be able to find anything on bottom side. Sunlight! You are insane, my guy! Not only baiting Lawrence on that initial engagement before the level 6 by having him use his CC on the clone, but the flash away to try to bait out to make him think like, okay, you can flash into me, I will go into the wall, but then to immediately turn an E into a minion to make sure that he was far enough away that no stun came through to kill Lawrence. Lawrence has been kind of commanding the individual one-on-one. It's only when other people have showed up to the lane that things really have gone badly for Lawrence on this star. This has been the first pick champion for them for 3 straight drafts, and finally Sunlight breaks something loose.
He has downloaded the patch. He knows his moves. He is ready. He's fought this boss fight a couple times now, and
I love that, man. I love it. It was so good. Turning to E that minion, not turning to E the Gnar, because if he turns and E's the Gnar, he stands right in place, E's on top of him, and gets into the wall, and the trade could come through from Lawrence. But Eing the minion instead. This is a dude who played Garen, a dude who played Yorick, like a guy who, like, he's playing individual laning champions, which is why walking in, blinding this Gnar for Lawrence was so crazy. And Lawrence has made it work time and time again, and finally we get a little bit of the regular season Sunlight popping in here, finding that solo kill for himself.
Nice indeed for Michigan State. As you can see, Harrisburg trying to see if they can come down here to the bot lane and get a little bit of action. We did see the Trundle try to make a gank happen, trying to have something come of some sort of avail here, as it's been a little bit of the struggle, as you were talking about earlier. This Trundle wants to get an impact, really being mean. He still has his mark on this Trundle. He still has his eyes set for the time where this Trundle, this troll, comes out of the jungle.
Kindred is okay with setting the earlier stage of the game. Obviously, you can find aggression into Trundle if it were there. You're not that pressed for that much. You're more pressed for marks than anything else on the Kindred to start things off, and we'll have to keep an eye out as to whether or not the Kindred marks are something that continue to pick up. I don't think he actually has one yet. I don't think he was able to grab the Scuttle Crab that led to the second one either. I could be wrong about that. Zethal has to flash.
Flash out immediately. Loopk doing a great job being aggressive, but does get punished a little bit. But the Thick Fat is able to eat up the damage. The Moonlight Vigil coming in, but he entangles him. He throws it into the tower. Hopeful gets outplayed, and it is a 1-for-1.
Hopeful burns Flash, burns Cleanse with red, white to go fighting, and now the river's just as bad.
Emps is dropped down critically low here. Emps is in a mercy situation. Zethal burns him down. Yet another 1-for-1 trade. Zile looking to take a chomp out of lands, but it's Syndra. It's really big mean. They are looking to bring the fight to Zile. Zile is going to go down here eventually. RBM looking to get that stack, and it will be the weak that gets scattered. MSU come up big in the bot lane.
And the first real advantage for MSU, Harrisburg in a couple of places overextending. Hopeful running forward with the red-white. This was the shift off of the blue, the nice flash burn from Zethal off of Loopk, who's been able to find some nice W's, but taking too much advantage. He's like, oh, this isn't a tank Maokai. I can just bring him down to damage. It was close to it, but the route to dodge the last, like the Shuriken auto or the shock room auto was really insane. And then this fight as well, Emps tries to move out of lane, right into the Kindred, right into Lance, who moves out of lane equally at the same speed. Not the Ivern getting shoved in over and over again, but instead on the Syndra, a lot more comfortable in a game like this, and you could see the impact that it made. They found trade kills in a number of places. They get a lot of members gold where they needed to be on the side of MSU, and again, the first early game advantage this team has held all series.
All series long, this is what they've been seeking. Tahm Kench looking to get a ward down, get a little bit of aggression onto this immobile AD carry that is Misfortune, as it is a bit of a lash and a little bit of damage, but doesn't get the knockup, and now they're getting collapsed upon. ArgentumSky looking to see if he can entangle any foes, looking at the Tahm Kench, but the root comes through. The damage is there. He barely survives and needs to walk through a hailfire of bullets.
Tough situation to be in. Once again, ArgentumSky is not the tank. He is going to be going for more damage, more enchantery type poke, things like that. Now top lane, Lawrence versus Sunlight again.
Yeah, he's caught out of position in this one. No clone to assist him here. He does juke out onto the rot. The Cyclone is there. Sunlight is still opting for the trade.
No way! No way! No way! No way!
Sunlight! He's inside the bush. He's able to stay alive. Lawrence knows that he has to retreat, but look at this. RBM is there to cut off the escape path. He's looking for it, but they go the wrong direction. Lawrence gets out alive.
I really thought Sunlight was about to get a solo kill against Lawrence. He didn't want to press his luck. He didn't want to play for the 1-for-1 trade. Instead, he wanted to hand it off to RBM, and I think, like you said, you kind of hit the nail on the head right there, that there were ships passing in the night. Lawrence ran up lane instead of rounding into river, thinking that that was going to be the cutoff angle. Really unfortunate for the side of Michigan State to not capitalize. But once again, across the map, denial of the play bottom side, individual performances showing up here in every lane for Michigan State the way they hadn't in the 2 games prior to this. Incredible to watch them begin to stand up on their own feet. Harrisburg, this is what I anticipated watching coming into a game like this. Them bending a little bit to some of the force that Michigan State has to bring, but having the Aphelios, having the Orianna, having some of the later scaling champions for big team fights, and not breaking in the process of this early game, wanting to take the late game themselves instead.
This wall that was so solid is beginning to show cracks, and Michigan State are looking to provide more, as this Tahm Kench cannot do anything. You just have to take the damage coming your way. Another kill for RBM.
Told you, man, he's all about the roots. That's all about at this point. It's literally just the melee version of the Ashe, or the melee version of the Zile, the set up the Misfortune ultimate right there on perfect display, as it also buys bot side a little bit more space to work with. So far, Hopeful has been amazing at farming throughout most of the series. Same with Emps, where both of them are feeling like they've been able to farm very effectively, keep themselves available inside of the game. The early kills, the early dragon going the way of Michigan State, once again tying this at the 1-1, the Infernal Drake going into their pocket. And of course, the Ocean Soul now is going to be our long-standing dragon. We've gone to that, I think, 3 games in a row now, where that's been one of the goals for both of these teams as we've continued. So
Dragons have been taken very early on. They've been split down the middle between the two of them as well. Gold is even between these 2 teams, and you gotta keep your eyes peeled on where the Nets play will happen. Herald could be the Nets site. There's all sorts of things that could give a good fright.
Oh, that's
Lance
no good.
finds Trundle. Power unleashed. He has to flash over the wall into the safety of his team.
Has to burn the ultimate just to make sure that you can take some of the tank stats away so he doesn't just get absolutely destroyed by the combination of the Syndra and the Kraken Slayer Kindred. The Rift Herald had just been taken. There's no combating for the most part. They're actually going to drop it in the mid lane. They're going to leave it there. Zile had enough health to not be able to work with.
Oh, the bait! Woo! Zile able to survive. The roots will come through. They will find themselves entangled. But, oh...
minimum. Nothing really crazy happens. It's just the Rift Herald charge. I think Zile really wanted to stop it with the smite and the auto attack against the eye before it actually got the charge off, but the 2 plates ended up going over. And ultimately, I think end of things, right? 2 plates is nothing, but it was also a raptor take that led into the mark actually being into the pockets of the RBM here as well.
Down here in the bot lane. Just kind of chilling. Surprise! I was inside the bush the entire time. The root isn't able to come out in time, but a huge shield onto this Aphelios. He's red and white, and those colors don't run. He is looking to present the opportunity that's been presented, and it is Hopeful with the double kill.
Hopeful understands the rhyme. Okay, all right. Well, Loopk unfortunately goes down off to the tower. That's just the tower shot going through. But yeah, Hopeful at least recognizes the rhyming pattern that is necessary for situations like this. With the red-white, it's time to fight here on the Aphelios, making sure to take use of that every single time he is across the laning phase. Too squishy of a Maokai, and the misfortune not really being able to contest him in like an auto attack trading battle, especially with those 2 guns up, just means he gets to run at the opposition freely for the most part. As Harrisburg, again, finding strikes in the positions that they need to. Hopeful, again, being this long-standing member of the team that came in from last year, able to establish their team fighting prowess, able to establish themselves inside of the 5-on-5s, hoping to be that one big damaging member for them.
RBM just kind of looking over the wall. Why would you do that? My blue buff. But it is a blue buff secured away from Harrisburg's mid laner. Emps definitely wanting it, has been using those spells to just try and combat the wave push that has been coming out. Lanse is looking pretty strong. He has been on Ivern duty for 2 games in a row here, Rebel, and finally is able to be like, I play a champion that does damage. And look at this, 2-0-1 on the Syndra.
He was very good at the Syndra all season. Again, watching the Ivern combination, I was really surprised they brought it out in Game 2 without the Rengar. So I'm like, okay, the Ivern Rengar makes a lot of sense. The Ivern without the Rengar is like, okay, that's a little bit confusing. It's not like a horrid pick. It can still do a lot of the Ivern things, but you saw it get aggressed against, and I think after that game, they figured out, like, hey, can't really do that. Zethal.
Is Loop just getting a bit over-aggressive here. Beautiful from RBM. He read the play, and Zethal, great at being bait.
Upside. Okay, I thought I was worried about Argentum's existence right there, because he was putting down wards to set up the second Rift Herald. He's the only one here, though, is the problem. There is no one else around to help him out. Only just now is Sunlight stepping out of the laning phase to assist him inside of the river, but he's just a level 7 Maokai with an Imperial Mandate, so he's running some of the issues for himself here.
Yeah.
It's not that bad, as the Rift Herald's getting dragged out of the pit, and there's a lot more reinforcements for Michigan State right around the corner.
Never alone when you can just throw saplings out, right?
True.
Like he's just like, yeah, I'm perfectly fine with this. And this is actually one of the curious things about Maokai and the support wall, which is why we see a lot more play on it, is you do see these saplings are actually being very annoying for the side of especially since it's an Ocean Soul. It's Ocean Soul and there's more bushes? That sounds a bit BM. Someone else's BM is the fact that Zethal was getting dove under this tower again. He uses the bullet time to just try and push Hopeful off. It will be a kill for Zile.
Well, on one hand, like, the ultimate was actually incredibly useful just to deny Hopeful's access to the kill, because I think without it, then Hopeful can just step up, auto-attack, and not worry about it. And it's going to open up bottom tower. On the other hand, I was worried about what was going to happen with the Rift Herald. They're going to drop the second one in the mid lane and attempt to just break this tower with no smite this time, because Zile, of course, was on the bottom side. They're going to lose both mid tower and top tower off the pushing of Sunlight. So it's gold that's being traded back in. First dragon, so that's at least something back for Harrisburg, as they see, again, there's no way to stop the mid lane play. Not that worried, so.
They did lose a member.
What?
Maokai dropped.
Okay, interesting. It must have just been a catch-out, because again, he's very squishy, so if Luke was there, I mean, he just catches him with like an auto or a Q, they just have to abandon him. There's not really much they can do. There's too many members for Harrisburg still on the map, and not enough members there from Michigan State to really contest. They just wanted the Rift Herald drop into the tower take, so. Alright, let's see how that turned out. Okay, so... Oh, okay.
Shockwave, there you go.
Yeah, Emps being able to catch him out. Now I understand. Okay, the ball placement was able to catch up to him. The slow was able to keep him within range. And again, I think it's justifiable means right there for being able to take the mid and the top tower in exchange for the bottom tower, the dragon, and a kill. Like, that's probably acceptable from the side of Michigan State. Not everything that you'd want, but at minimum, they're still finding strikes, and they're still finding ways to put gold into their Kindred, which is the biggest thing.
Get that Kindred online. 1-0 and 4 is sitting on that third stack, though, and has been sitting there for quite a bit of time. We all know Kindred likes to, once they hit that fourth set, that's when you start to see the Kindred pop-off start to come forward. But so far, Harrisburg doing a good job staying in control of the game, making sure that this Kindred is not able to just fly off the hinges.
Harrisburg has done a really good job, akin to what they did in games 1 and 2. The difference is, again, Michigan State's setup, I think, was a lot better this game, even though they still have very good team fighting as well to be able to rely on. Harrisburg has been able to shut them out of a lot of just kind of purely winning situations. The biggest thing, they've done nothing to slow down the Kindred, which is one thing to note. That, of course, RBM, to me, was the crux of this for Michigan State. Again, being this like incredible senior, being a lot of what's been behind a lot of their success beyond just coaching. In terms of players, RBM has been around and been an absolute masterclass in both amateur, proving grounds, wherever he's been, and inside of collegiate has been one of the best northern junglers for literally years. And now in his final split, they put a bunch of faith for him to be able to take over a game like this, and they've done nothing to prevent that from coming through. So there is that to consider, that you can rely on his damage as the game continues.
Possible team fight coming in. The ultimate from Maokai, able to catch just the Trundle. Zile taking a good amount of damage, but into the mouth of Tahm Kench he goes. Well, he will stay safe, and nobody will fall from the side of Harrisburg.
They do trade off a couple of team fighting ultimates, which is pretty big. The Baron buff is going to be popping up here in just a second. I wonder if they think they can take it with the amount of damage that they've got. Ooh, okay. I don't think RBM was spotted on that. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, it looks like over the wall. Lawrence isn't all that concerned about it. Baron is a very fast thing for Michigan State here. That is something to consider, is that you have double ADC, you have a Wukong, you got a Kindred to be able to work with when the time comes. There's a lot of potential threat around this Baron buff. Now, Harrisburg wants that to be the case, but they're still waiting, I think, for second item spike before the team fight really comes together, and they're comfortable stepping all 5 members against all 5 members of MSU.
MSU looks very dangerous in these team fight scenarios, right? Like, Misfortune, ult, plus the Syndra, Scatter the Weak, and then the Maokai that can tangle people up. Those 3 things are already devastating, but then you got other people, like, picking apart the pieces, like this Kindred, like the Wukong, that can be cycloning in the backline while everybody else is CC'd. It feels like it's a storm that Harrisburg is going to have trouble navigating, but they definitely have tools to be able to shred some of these members, right? This Aphelios is 2-1-2, and Hopefulx has been great all series long, and it's been a very, very viable member for you to be able to put resources into. He has been doing an exceptional job.
So there's 2 parts of the fight, I think, from the side of Harrisburg, right? They've got their situation where you've got Gnar, or you've got like a kind of an engagement coming through from Loopk or from Lawrence, on top of the shockwave and this burst engagement, this burst bit of damage that comes through on the initial parts of the fight. And that also includes the Moonlight Vigil. Then you have the back end of the fight, which is pretty much exclusively Hopeful, a little bit of Zile as well, but mostly Hopeful, being able to play from front to back with space that's being bought by the rest of his team. If those 2 come together in tandem, it's very difficult for Michigan State to actually make things work, right? Like, if you take all of that and you allow for Hopeful to work his way from front to back in a fight, things aren't going to go well for you. Watching this because Lawrence appears to be able to chase Sunlight really effectively. Nice use of the clone, actually slows him down. Oh, he gives him a bounce, though, but I think he misses the boomerang. Oh, no, he didn't miss the boomerang. Okay.
He catches it again. That's fine. He's like, I'm Omega. I pushed you away from all these waves. These waves all belong to me. But you know what? MSU says, fine, that's cool. We're going to position around this dragon 30 seconds until it spawns. And MSU do not want Harrisburg to be on soul point.
No, they do not. And the big thing about MSU is finding a strike in between Harrisburg's ability to make a team fight work comes between that first initial burst engagement and within that time when Hopeful begins to move up with the space that's been allotted to allow Harrisburg to kind of shift into hyper carry mode with their Aphelios. If they can attack during that little bit of moment, with a Syndra being able to find some stopgap CC coming through.
They get a lot of damage onto him. The Moonlight Vigil only hit onto really big meme. Does put down a little zone of safety for the rest of the team, but Lawrence getting a lot of damage done to him. Goes Mega. The Cyclone goes in. The bullet time is there. Sunlight gets the kill onto Lawrence. What an expert pick from the side of MSU.
Harrisburg can't find the engagement. Instead, it is the zoning coming out from the side of Michigan State where nobody is able to full engage into this team on the side of Harrisburg that prevents them from getting a solid ball delivery, prevents them from getting a solid Moonlight Vigil, and this continues.
Hopeful. Gale forces forward, and now really big meme. He's gotten Dragon. He's coming back in. He's looking hopeful, but look at how much damage Aphelios has done. The HP bars look absolutely wrecked from the side of MSU, and they realize this, and they say, all right, cool. We're going to go back to the fountain and give ourselves a little bit more HP.
2 dragons apiece, Travis. Only about a 1,500 gold lead, going to be reduced to about 1,000 here for Michigan State in only seconds. Harrisburg trying to rely on one of their standing members, this backup to Wixie, who got promoted last season, and hopeful to be able to help carry them through a massive fight, hoping that Zile can frontline for this team effectively in his last year as a senior. And on the side of Michigan State, obviously, they've been incredibly competitive. These last couple of minutes have shown that it's difficult to get this full engagement. It's going to require Harrisburg to take a very big step of faith, a leap of faith into this squad from Michigan State to find the perfect engagement. It's about when can you find this strike, setting yourself up for as much success as possible, and then, of course, just taking it. Harrisburg has not had to really test themselves in a number of situations where they have to make a very aggressive play. They have to make themselves, win out a team fight by making an overexertion of themselves. When they've had Zile on things like the Zaki is the safety of the ultimate or the passive to be able to not die, this is a circumstance where it feels like Lawrence or Zile or Loopk have to go in with the ball and just pray that the fight works out afterwards. They have to connect everything in all of their pieces in ways that they're not typically accustomed to against the side of Michigan State here to make it work. And like you said, that flash from Lawrence going down definitely doesn't help this situation.
No, it doesn't. Every time I see somebody go close to one of the MSU moments that are prowling in the bush, I'm like, oh, I'm holding my breath because I know they're what they're looking for. And it's not love. They are looking for kills. They are looking for blood. And Harrisburg, they look like prey whenever Michigan State has looked at them. I feel like they've looked at them in that same fashion even when they've been behind 10K. And Michigan State looking to continuously play aggressive. They are not looking to play into whatever Harrisburg decides they want to go for. Oh my God, Sky gets bursted. Really big meme tried to save him. He's trying to run away as fastly as he can. Will survive the play. Scattered away connects onto Trundle. Yet again, hit perfectly into the mouth of Tahm. Kench, Emps takes a bullet time. Woo! That's a trade of abilities back and forth between the two.
The objective is the Baron that's up right now. It's going to force a couple of members from Harrisburg to take backs right there, as it was almost a kill onto Zile, which would have been terrible for Harrisburg. That would have almost certainly prompted an immediate call of the Baron because there's no smite to contest coming out. But ultimately, they end up in a winning scenario because they pulled not only the kill against Argentum, who again is very squishy on this Maokai, who's trying to ward as melee support. It's not an easy situation to find yourself in, but also to get the ultimate, the Spirit's Refuge, out of RBM meant that there was no way for them to push forward into the team, no way for them to push any further into the fight. So they just have to let bygones be bygones and instead wait for these objectives to come through. Just the one kill going over, not that big of an impact coming out, all things considered. And a minute and a half out from the Dragon would set up for the soul point. Both these teams looking like they're preparing for this situation to come to fruition, looking like they're preparing for the team fight to come out.
I can't help but look at the itemization that's coming out from Harrisburg Storm and just look at how defensive they've gotten, right? The Trundle full tank, full armor. And Lawrence as well went for a Thornmail, second item. And they have these steel-plated boots. There's so much that is just there to just try and be at the dismay of this misfortune, of this Kindred. It's immense.
You know who they've forgotten, though, is Lance on this Syndra.
They did.
There's only one bit of magic. Well, there's technically a little bit of magic resist. Outside of the Tahm Kench, there's one bit of magic resist, and it's Merc Treads. And you don't typically build them for that. With the Void Staff, it is effectively true damage being dished by Lance. One of these younger members, one of these members that were sitting behind a lot of players. In fact, he was the backup player to Takeover in the earlier part of this season. Takeover, that is the one that played for TSM. He was on MSU before he ended up moving up, and this was the guy sitting behind him. He's an incredible player. He was very young walking into the split. This was his first full split in collegiate. And this is going to be the testament. They don't believe him capable of doing damage. The Baron is started up by Harrisburg. The approach is not there. They're nowhere near this. This is just going to get taken from Harrisburg. This is free all day.
Shotgun just got switched off, so it's a gravity gun now available for Hopefulx. So this actually knocks down their speed tremendously. They're going to get forced off of this. The entanglement coming in, really big meme, is going to be able to catch Lawrence over here on the side if they're not careful. The Baron, it completely halted.
Yeah, now what you could do is you could set up this little sieging with like the Syndra and the Maokai just throwing in little bits of damage. Behind them is lxwrence, who is the one threat, but they're going to push directly into topside here, trying to find a play onto Loopk.
Yeah, I think this is a viable one. You have a Mega Gnar in your backline, so you do have to be cautious about that. lxwrence is looking for a possible play, but Sky flashed forward. He's going to be able to catch him. The slow was there. Throw him up against the wall. It doesn't matter. You still go down. Sunlight being juicy bait for the rest of the squad, but that's the scatter of the week coming in. Moonlight Vigil only hit no to one member. The Shockwave, no, and boy, they find Sanctuary with RBM. The bullet time comes in. Damage is to the dismay of Harrisburg, and they are on the retreat.
An insanely intelligent move also from the side of MSU. They do not care about this Baron. It is too much to full commit to this. I think they have the damage for it, but they don't want to go themselves into a position where they have lower health bars than necessary, and they're going to find themselves in a bad position. Instead, they take the high probability course of going for this dragon. It was a great split. I think when we get to the replay, I'll be able to talk about it a little bit more, but this right here, Michigan State have been on an incredibly low margin of gold advantage. It's been 1.5, 2K basically the entirety of the game. This is the first real tangible setup that they've got to potentially take a massive advantage. This Ocean Soul would be huge for setting themselves into massive success territory against Harrisburg, who once again, walking towards the Baron. The redeploy is coming out from Michigan State, so they should be able to take it this fast. Argentum's got to be very careful now.
Careful isn't enough at this point in time. He is just dead as can be around the Baron pit, as you can see. This is the call. They're going right back onto it. Back to the Baron you go. There is no Maokai to be able to pester you, but the rest of Michigan State are en route. They're going to be able to catch out some members here. lxwrence is going to be able to go. Do you fight for this? Sunlight says yes. lxwrence is in the backline dealing with RBM. The bullet time is there. Zethal gets the kill onto Tahm. Kench, really big meme, and the rest of the crew are here. It is a 3v3. Zethal marching forward, wants a piece of the action. Zethal only barely survives. The potion is there. He chug-jugs his way back to the mid lane. It is 3 members against 3. MSU able to fend them off the Baron.
Twice now, the Baron dance has been called from Harrisburg. Twice now, Michigan State has barely skated through with no problems. And both times, I have to give immense props to their top laner, Sunlight, who is able to disrupt the backline. Take a look at this fight once again. Oh, okay, we're at brain. My apologies. I thought it was a replay. Sunlight did some incredible stuff right there to actually show everything during the course of this fight. You can see, watch this, because of course they're down their Maokai, they're down warding, they have to walk into the river basically blind. They have to be careful about this setup. And the side of Harrisburg, they're like, okay, lxwrence could look for a fight, look to pressure off RBM. They'll look at Sunlight, look at Lanse. These front line, on the front of the fight, this Wukong Cyclone, being able to buy so much space, being able to put in enough disruption that the Baron gets the full reset. Even if they lose one member and end up having to leave immediately afterwards, it does not matter, because the Baron is then stopped. Sunlight clutches not one, but 2 Baron fights in a row to prevent Harrisburg from finding any kind of footing in this game.
I'm just in amazement too, because it is constantly like, it feels like you take away the Maokai and there's a huge form like your CC, the Imperial Mandate, that poke, the annoyingness that is those saplings gets taken away. But we're seeing them divide and conquer Harrisburg in the most interesting of ways, right? You usually associate Mega Gnar with this huge initiation, huge team fight tool. He had to use his ult to throw Misfortune out of a bullet time, which could have made more members drop potentially. Like, we're seeing Harrisburg, they're trying to play to their game. They have a smart way of playing it, but it's like MSU picked them with fights and they pushed them apart in ways it feels like they just don't expect.
Harrisburg's very standard style of play. They're not down too much gold. They've been able to maintain striking distance on MSU this entire time. It's just a question of when did they get their perfect team fight set up. Again, it's a difficult situation. They have to find an aggressive move. They keep getting moved into. lxwrence keeps looking for too wide of flank angles and caught out on the side, where like the Gnar ultimate is something that they should be looking to use in a very direct way, right? An E-Flash ultimate into the team to set up an Orianna Shockwave, wins a fight, or at least puts you in a position where, Hopefulx can then take over from there, where the Aphelios can take over and win the fight from there. But they've been getting so crafty with attempting to put that into position that they're losing the real crux of it, which is that all they need is the damage to stick. All they need is the CC to start off the fight, so that the initial bit of chaos is able to spurn enough space for Hopeful to start working his way through a fight. Because what's happening right now is by taking so much time to look for an engagement, Michigan State is able to themselves disrupt the positioning of Hopeful, disrupt them by having Loopk have to pull him in, pull in Emps, having them burn the shockwave just as a defensive maneuver to make sure they don't lose their backline, they don't lose the person who can carry the fight for them, and that's been costing them in every single fight. At some point, Harrisburg, you don't get crafty, you don't need to juggle anything, you don't need to think about what flank angle, just fight them. Go fight them. That's how you win with this composition when the damage is there.
To reiterate your point too, right? Like Gnar and Tahm Kench, 4 deaths, 5 deaths. That's 9 deaths. 9 out of 12 kills that Michigan State have gotten have been on this, your chunky front line, the people who are going forward. So they got to figure out that way to be able to fight. Instead, they are finding themselves getting rocked time and time again. Emps needs to be careful over here onto the side. As you can see, Sunlight looking for the angle. Is this it? There is going to be the Cyclone onto only one member, but a huge amount of damage has been put onto Lanse. Hopeful goes golden, and it's going to be Scatter the Weak coming in. A beautiful stun. The shutdown comes through. Hopeful's down. Loop is down, but they're also taking advantage of all the remaining members. Zile gets dropped by RBM and Lanse, and now it's just the 2 members of Harrisburg, lxwrence and Emps, left standing for this squad.
This is more of what I wanted to see from them. They found a bit better of a pure full-on engagement. The problem is Zethal does too much to be able to actually work with, and now they are down to 2 members. They're down to 2 core members with ultimates. They still have the Gnar to work with, but they need to get his Gnar bar up. They need to use the Baron to be able to generate this, and RBM is shredding through this. He is insanely powerful. Lanse also has so much damage. They have to be careful on their approach. They are playing so defensively, they can't. They're not going to poke into the pit. They're going to give up the Baron and give themselves a second shot at this game, hoping that the Baron buff does not just outright yield the Dragon here in a couple of seconds off the back of the mid push that is currently being held by lxwrence. They're going to TP into the pit, and they're going to make sure that they snag this one away, which should come to them, which means that the game is stalled a little longer. It's just about what Michigan State now can get done with the Baron buff that just went into their back pocket.
I really respect this move from Harrisburg too, because the saplings just make it to where maybe the Orianna gets dropped here. Now the shockwave is available. Emps can be in a position for a huge ultimate. We are now yet again at a game where the Dragons are split evenly, and they could be the deciding factor here with the soul available. But MSU, they're not bothered by that whatsoever. They will barrel down the mid lane. They've got a top wave. Look at how huge that wave is, Rebel.
It's insane. The setup that they've been able to have for the last couple of minutes, and the ability to kind of take advantage now of what they've been able to sow, like reap what they have sowed over the last couple of minutes, has been massive. This gold lead, which has been sitting at like 2,000 maximum most of the game, has now ballooned to 5.5K, which is at 35 minutes still not exactly what you'd be looking for, especially since like the next Dragon is what's really going to decide it, but it is far better than anything they've had the remainder of the game combined, so you can consider that as well. When we get a look at the items, just one last little take at what the actual power of some of these champions is. You've got Rabadon's now completed for Lanse. He hits like a truck. How much magic resistance built? You got 1 null magic on lxwrence, and you now have one Negatron as well into the pocket of Zile. That's about it. Everybody else is getting 1 shot for the most part when it comes to what Lanse is able to put out on this champion. You got 4 items completed. 0 boots for Misfortune. This is a no boots build for Lanse, or for Zethal, my apologies. And he's been using it fantastically because this Misfortune ultimates have been massive. Just finished his Guardian Angel as well, which means time has ticked. He is going to be at just about maximum capacity when it comes to the damage, and they're going to have to kill him twice. So keeping track of that. Damages start to come in from Orianna. Emps is now an absolute beast, will one-shot people with the Shockwave, and it is an Infinity Edge done in a Guardian Angel upcoming for Hopeful to be able to carry a fight. Everybody's in position to have the damage that they need to win out a game like this. It's just about setting up the team fight, setting up around this next Dragon. 3 minutes stand between us, Travis, and what is likely the last fight in this game.
And both these teams have a spotlight looking to shine upon a member. There's so many of these members from this squad that could, either one of them, that could possibly steal the show in the next team fight. But no mistakes can be made. Harrisburg have to play this nice and steady because, like you said, with Dragons spawning up, they don't want the game to end. They don't want the game to spiral out of control when it comes to that play. You can see even this was a 4K gold a lead that they were able to establish thanks to this Baron that they secured. So MSU feeling good about this. This is the first time, I think, all series where they've had a definitive gold lead. They've been fighting, they've been scrapping. Now it's coming all around for them. Can they finish? Can they get themselves the dub? Can they get top 8?
This is for a spot in the top 8, spot in the quarterfinals, spot in LA. This is for the continued chance at a championship. This is to continue your collegiate season. The loser is done now, today. There is nothing else after this. For players that are in their last games, for players that are seniors that are making it work, this is the last chance you got to prove it.
Sky looking to say the root has connected onto the Aphelios, cleanses at the sight of sunlight, and will just disengage, find safety behind the rest of his team. Zile is there, looking to press forward onto Lanse. The beautiful pillar is going to be established. Lanse is all by himself, but nobody follows through. Instead, they look for the catch onto Sky. RBM is on the flank. This could be a huge team fight. They're looking to lay a bit more damage. Scattered a weak hit. The ball's time. Bounce goes down. The cyclone into the back line. Hopeful has nobody to protect him from all the action coming his way. Lawrence is retreating. He's going to be able to go mega, but has 2 major members of Harrisburg dropped.
The E and the Flash are available for Lawrence, and he's got the ultimate. They have the Aphelios still alive with the Guardian Angel. It's the only chance that they have to be able to hold this one last time. Can Harrisburg keep the base up? Can they not lose right here and right now? There's no wave remaining. They're waiting for the last one to come through. They've got 20 seconds. I like this decision from MSU. They're not going to risk everything on one set of turret dives into a Gnar and into an Aphelios, who are incredibly powerful. Instead, they will choose to back, they will spend their gold, and they will walk to the soul point. That is what they need to do.
That's what they are going to do. You can see the gold being spent, but here you go. Zile yet again in hot pursuit, but this time it's on the Wukong, who has these dashes, can get out of tough situations. Emps has spawn, has teleport available as well, so we'll be able to rejoin the fight. This next fight is going to possibly be a nail in the coffin for either one of these teams. Lawrence getting Mega Gnar, is trying to hold on to his rage, trying to cage it in. Kyle goes forward. Lots of damage being put in. Cyclone into the backline. Lawrence isn't able to go mega. Tahm Kench taken off the field. Trundle taken off the field. It's a triple kill for RBM. He's looking to make it more. It's a GA pop, but is not going to be able to resuscitate Harrisburg. It is a dub for Michigan State.
You took it down to the best possible terminology. Flatlining. Game 1, they lose to Harrisburg in quick fashion with this insane draft. We talked about it. Game 2, they're down 10k at 15 minutes. We thought they were done, dusted, and Harrisburg was moving on looking terrifying. And instead, MSU are the ones that move on. MSU overcome Game 2, and they win the game here in the best of 16 to move on.
They overcome Harrisburg playoff buffs. Harrisburg, who looked so freaking good throughout this series. MSU scrapped and clawed their way in. This was by no means an easy fight for MSU, but they did it. They have punched in their ticket. They're going to LA.
It is an insane performance from both teams. Walking into this one, we knew how talented that these two teams were. These were two teams that we could have expected seeing in a Final Four matchup. Harrisburg, every season, is perpetually one of the teams that makes a run to the championship, and we knew how difficult it was going to be for either team here today. Everybody called it on our analyst desk in a 2-1. We had no clue what that meant until now at the end of the series where we see a 2-1. I don't think that's a proper descriptor of just how insane this series was from start to finish. Truly, Harrisburg came out with a massive game plan. They were able to execute it first game, and 80% of the second game. And that little lapse is all that was necessary for MSU to come back. They clutched off the back of expertise from old players, being able to use some of the best coaching in the world, but also the individual performances stuck out so heavily. Sunlight, Lanse, Zethal, players that didn't have that experience, players that didn't necessarily have all this kind of exposure around them walking into a series like this, came up huge in Game 3 to put MSU into the spot in the quarterfinals.
It was a beautiful game. I'm checking my heart rate right now. My heart is beating out of its chest right now. It was a crazy series, but that's it here for us on the caster desk. We are going to go ahead and send it to our Giga Brains over on the desk. So, gents, take it on away.
Thank you very much for a wonderful cast, Travysty and Rebel. I cannot contain my excitement after a series like that. I mean, it feels like just an hour ago we're looking at a 10k gold lead for Harrisburg, where they're ready to just wrap things up, book their ticket to LA, and go be in the top 8 for who knows, 5th, 6th time. I mean, they've been around forever, but MS freaking you with the comeback. Wow, I mean, just raw, honest thoughts, TJ.
I mean, what can you really say, right? Like, if you think about from the players' perspectives here, you must be thinking like, you're just over the moon, really. There's nothing except for that. Like, we could sit down and analyze a ton, like we really could. But at the end of the day, that was just some amazing League of Legends to watch. It was really fun seeing both sides play different fights in different ways. So, my take: congratulations to MSU.
Yeah, you know, Joshi looks a lot like Zile over there at the end of the desk. We'll get him reconnected, don't worry. VMix is just playing some tricks on us, but I mean, just seriously, I just want to echo what you said. It really does feel like, hey, we got John.
Welcome back.
Hey,
right.
I
Josh,
probably feel the same way.
Let's hear your thoughts.
I probably feel the same way. That was one of the tensest games of League of Legends I have ever seen. You could tell that everybody was on edge the entire time. Everybody was trying to find the one thing they could, and there are so many moments that all of our players are going to look back on later and be like, that one thing that I did could have been the part that make or break our series. And at the end of the day, it ends up being Michigan State, and you just know that all these players are going to look back, some of them in fondness and others, you know, maybe with a little bit of PTSD.
To all the players, just know that it was not an individual thing, right? Like, there was not one mistake where it was like, this is the thing that caused the series, this is why we're not going, or this is why we are going. It was a collective team effort there from MSU to win, and unfortunately a collective effort for the Harrisburg loss.
Yeah. So as we kind of look towards the rest of it, I kind of just have to like look at all these players and just say, you know, for everybody who was here, it's like, this was a game. If you played your hearts out, as long as you can say that you really put in everything, then you can walk away with your head held high. It was a tough, grueling series. Games 2 and 3 were both like 40-something minutes each. Like, everybody's exhausted. Just, you know, make sure you take some time to relax afterwards.
Completely agree. I mean, this is the kind of game, this is the kind of series where you can just feel every play has so much weight on it. Every decision, every single interaction. I mean, we saw just little nitpicky things that we were picking out on the analyst desk. You know, these guys are going to look back on it. They're going to think about this, and this is the kind of series that really defines collegiate, right? We've been so blessed on this main channel to have just stream after stream after stream with amazing games to cover, and the top 16 is no different. I mean, the top 32 is amazing. The top 16 today has delivered, even though the first series was 2-0. It was such a close and tense series. We do have a couple minutes before we do throw it over to an interview with Zile from Harrisburg first. So, I mean, just your overall thoughts on not only this series, but maybe just the day as a whole.
I think this day describes collegiate League of Legends, right? Like, we had so many intense series, we had base races, we had random throws, we had insane wombo combos, we had everything that you could really ask for from like a player perspective. So it's really exciting to see the players show up. This bracket is obviously, you know, people have had some qualms with it on Twitter, but I think that it shows the kind of strength in collegiate where it's like, it might not be the cleanest League of Legends, but you can see moments of beauty and grace in it. So it creates for tons of hype in games.
Yeah, I loved watching all of our players coming through, right? There's so much personality that you get to see. There's so much character that everybody brings to the table, right? And I feel like we really got to see that, and just kind of the resiliency that Michigan State in particular had, right? Not a lot of teams can come around and turn around that 10,000 goal deficit. Not a lot of teams can then play another 40-minute game on top of that, just brawling it out the entire time, knowing that any single kill can win the game. And it's a testament to all of their ability to just like keep themselves in the game for as long as they are. And the great thing is they know they have more League of Legends to play, right? They're going on to the round of 8.
Yeah. I mean, it really does say a lot about the mental resilience of MSU to be able to come back in the second game, to be able to take a deep breath, a mental reset after that second game, and perform so well in game 3. I mean, you have RBM who played incredibly well. The rest of MSU around him played incredibly well. Harrisburg put up a hell of a fight in that final game, and luckily we are going to be able to get to talk to Zile to get his perspective on that. And I really do want to praise Harrisburg because we did talk about their program. We did talk about how great of a team that they've put together. And it really does feel like, you know, an unlucky round of 16 draw.
Yeah, and I do want to, before we throw away, just a reminder that like this might be Zile's last game with the squad, right? As a senior graduating, it's heartbreaking to go off, but that's one of those things that you can always look back on and say, hey, we had a great run, and hopefully next year's class can do even better.
Just want to reiterate the amount of effort that Harrisburg put in. Like, it's definitely not where they wanted to end, but clearly they showed they put in a lot of effort throughout the course of their season. I'm sure they all improved individually a ton. We saw tons of teamwork, so they did come out the losers today, but that's not to discredit any of their effort throughout the course of their year.
Absolutely, and we will get the chance to hear from Zile on some of that effort and improvement that Harrisburg made in a losers interview that we will have coming to you shortly. We'll be right back. Hello, everybody. We are back quickly, and I am joined here with Harrisburg's senior jungler, Zile. Zile, I mean, honestly, I want to just start with your thoughts and feelings after such a tense and close series. We were talking about it on the desk. I mean, that is one of the closest series we've seen so far, and just sort of walk me through how you're feeling.
I'm really, I'm heartbroken because I have like so many great people around me, and it felt to me that in game 2 where we had like this massive lead, and I'm on a champion that I'm supposed to perform on and carry the game, and I basically threw basically threw our lead, like died, gave them big shutdown, gave them Baron, and yeah, I'm just really heartbroken because, especially for my mid laner Emps, who tries like so unbelievably hard, and he's this kid who just wants to go pro, and he played so good, and like to think that I like let him down in that capacity is just really tough.
I understand the feeling. I mean, I do think that you played much better than you give yourself credit for, and I think with time you will look back on the series and you'll realize that you did have a very strong performance. One thing that I do want to ask you is, I believe this is your graduating year. Is that correct?
I got one left.
You've got one left.
I got
Okay,
one
that's
left.
awesome. Okay, we were under the impression that this was your final go around. So, how does it feel? With one more year left, what are your thoughts and expectations for next year's program with Harrisburg?
So next year we should have a very similar roster. Like we should still have me, we should still have Emps, we should still have Loopk, we should still have a lot of the other players. Like we have 10 players, so a lot of them are sticking around. A couple are graduating. But I mean, I love everyone on my team, so I think that it felt to me that this year we had a legitimate shot to go all the way to finals. Like I was so excited to go to LA and prove that we're a good team. And we got really, really lucky in terms of the bracket. I think that MSU is actually, they have a really good shot at making finals now, honestly, because like we're on the opposite side of like 3 of the teams that are considered the favorites, I would say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that next year we're going to be a strong contender again. I think this year we had the potential to be a very strong contender, and that's why like the loss feels so bad, is because it feels like we legitimately could have gotten all the way to finals or even won the whole thing if we had just performed to the best of our ability. And to like get knocked out in round of 16 after like feeling so much hope for our tournament run. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm completely understandable. It really is. I mean, it's a tough feeling, but it's definitely understandable that you feel that way. Final question for you. You've talked a lot about your teammates and sort of the ways that you prop them up, but who are some of sort of the background characters in the Harrisburg program? Some people that maybe don't get as much attention that you want to shine some light on and thank?
I want to thank all of the people who weren't starting. Michael, Clyde, Steven, Cloud, and Ryan. They have been so insanely supportive of the team, like every step of the way. We play in-houses all the time. We're always talking about picks. We're always talking about new strategies, like new patches. I want to say thank you to AP, who is our new like media guy. I don't know if you guys saw the documentary about our match against U of A, but he's awesome, absolutely phenomenal. And he's been here not very long, and he's just been just such a great addition to the team. Obviously, the coaches put in like an insane amount of work. So I want to say thank you to them as well, and thank you to my parents. They're probably watching right now. They always watch my games. They always root me on. So.
Love to hear that. Any final words? Any final shout outs before we take a break?
Yeah, I even though we're knocked out, I think that Zile is so exciting this year. I think there are so many good teams. I think that everyone should keep their eyes on Zile. It's only going to grow. It's only going to get better. The matches are going to be awesome this year. And, I'm excited to watch the top 8 in LA. I won't be there, unfortunately, but I think it'll be hype.
Thank you very much for doing this interview with us, Zile. I think you and your team played much better than you're giving yourself credit for, and I really wish you the best of luck next year, and I think you guys are going to make a great statement in CLOL.
Thanks, Dylan.
You're welcome. All right, we're going to head to a short break, and then we have a winner's interview with the other side. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody. I am joined with a man who is smiling ear to ear right now, Michigan State's top laner, Sunlight. How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling ecstatic. I'm great to be alive. That's all I gotta say. I'm great.
I love it. Can you show the belt a little bit more in the camera? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
What is that
So,
thing?
2019, it was a grudge match, MSU versus U of M. We beat them, and we got this as the trophy. So, I'm carrying their energy, even though they didn't win today. They were right behind us, supporting us, and we were too with them. So, I wanted to repay it.
Heck yeah, I love the camaraderie, man. Okay, we need to start with game 2. You guys are down 10,000 gold at 20 minutes. Who is stepping up in comms? What is happening that gives you guys the energy to come back?
So MSU is more like we scale to the late game, and I firmly believe it every time I play. And so when my team was not very saying anything because it was very low in morale, I sort of just stepped in. I just say, let's just continue farming. Like that's all we could do right now is catch these waves, catch these supers. They're doing these stagger inhibs, so we're getting money back, but it's just a very slow incremental crawl. And it's just very hard to play from there. But we're here, so it worked. We just kept farming.
You made it. I mean, honestly, it was such an impressive game, and I haven't really dug too deep, but that's got to be one of the biggest comebacks in collegiate history. And
for sure.
to clutch top 8, to clutch a ticket to LA on top of it, how's the team feeling now that you get to go to the first time in-person collegiate championship in a few years?
Oh, we're excited, man. We're ready to go. We're raring to get back up on stage and prove that we're not as bad as people say we are. I just wanna go up there and beat Niles. That's all I want to do. I solo killed that guy twice. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do it 3 times. That's what I'm gonna do.
Oh
shout
my
out to
gosh.
ArgentumSky too, because that Maokai was insane. Just saying.
Was it insane? I don't know. Were we watching the same game? Give me some insight on the Maokai.
I don't know. He just kept throwing saplings, and by the end of the game, you saw the entire quadrant was really warded with saplings, and it was so much zone control. It was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be nice. Wow. Okay. So, final question for you, my friend. You obviously played very well individually in that series. It felt like Wukong was a pick that you're feeling quite strong on. Going into the top 8, how do you feel like you stack up against other top laners? You highlighted Niles. What do you think about the other guys?
Uh, I think I'm better than all of them. Not gonna lie. Like, I wouldn't say this if I didn't
Okay.
have like the confidence to say
Yeah.
that, because like, if people knew me, I took Garen to 1500 LP, so I'm pretty sure I could just out macro them, even though it's sort of lacking right now. Not gonna lie. But if I actually start playing these other champions like Wukong, where I sort of learned how to play him in the third game, and I solo killed him, then like it's gonna be a dub for sure.
I love the confidence, man. All right. Any final shout outs? Any final thoughts you want to share before we kick it to a final break for the day?
All right, I just want to shout out to my team. Thank you all. Thank you to all my family for watching. And finally, shout out to Kevin, because I'm gonna see him in LA. See you there, bro.
Heck yeah. Shout out to Kevin. Good to see
Shout
you,
out
bro,
to
in LA.
Kevin.
Let's go,
Woohoo,
Kevin.
Kevin.
All right. We are throwing it right back to the desk to get some closing thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us, Sunlight. Congratulations on the win, and I love the Orn poster, man. The energy is through the roof.
Yeah, it's great. I didn't play Orange sadly, but thank you for having me.
We'll see you in top 8. Thanks for joining us, man.
Bye-bye.
Let's go, Kevin!
Yeah,
Go, Kevin! I just want to know who Kevin is. Like,
yeah,
who is he?
hey, maybe, I don't know, pop up in top 8 on the Riot stream. I don't know. We'll have to see who Kevin is. That's the storyline that I want to follow. Gentlemen, we have a couple minutes before close of the show for today. Any final thoughts? I mean, just such an exciting day. It's hard to really summarize how
Look,
we've been feeling.
we had 5 straight games of bangers today, right? And we have more of round of 16 coming up tomorrow. So if you thought it was over, you got something else you got to be thinking about, because we have more of the exact same coming your way tomorrow.
I love
I
it.
second that. Like, tomorrow should be extremely interesting. We have UCI versus ISU, which obviously will be a bloodbath banger, just like this one today. And that's not to take any from Bay State SLU. Obviously, 2 extremely good teams. We have obviously the other games going on, not on the Academy stream, but I'm so excited to see more bloodbaths tomorrow in Collegiate League of Legends. Today was amazing.
Yeah.
Today
I mean, I've said this
was
earlier.
amazing.
Yeah, you get to see so much character, so much personality comes out in Collegiate League of Legends, right? Just seeing the outplays, like Sunlight's outplay earlier in the day on Lawrence, where he just like dodges Gnar's wall up and then finds a solo kill while down a level. He's gonna remember that, right? He's gonna go onto Twitter, he's gonna clip that over and over. He's like, yo guys, check it out. I outplayed an Academy top laner. This guy isn't anything. Look, I'm gonna take his spot, I'm gonna go solo kill Niles. I mean, that's the kind of thing, you don't get that even at the LCS level. You don't get that at the Academy level. That's what happens here in Collegiate, where everybody's just like ready to throw hands.
I think the coolest thing is how willing people are to like talk and engage and, you know, maybe throw some banter around and just be like people and hang out and be themselves. Like Zile's interview was incredibly heartfelt. Winston spoke extremely well today. Obviously Sunlight here at the end. Like everybody's so out there right now in terms of what collegiate esports means to each individual person. So it's so nice to see the different personalities come out on stage and then obviously how they match up against their opponents.
It is wonderful. It is wonderful. Honestly, one word that comes to mind, it's just special. I mean, you don't really get this kind of atmosphere. You don't get these kind of games in anywhere else but Collegiate League of Legends. And that's why I love it. And that's why, you know, we're so blessed to be able to bring these games to you guys. But that's all for us today. We will be joined once we're getting some confirmation on who Kevin is. It is the AD carry for MSU. It is Zethal. So, you know,
Okay.
shout outs, Kevin. The saga continues. But that is all for us on the analyst desk today. We will be back at the same time tomorrow, 12 o'clock PST, with 2 banger series. We're going to go to 6 games. I just know we are. Me and TJ, we're cursed. It will always go very long.
Will happen.
But it just has to happen. It just has to happen. But thank you so much to anybody who's been joining us today for day 1 of the round of 16 2022 College League of Legends Championship. I am your host, Dylan MLBD, joined by TJ and Joshi. Thank you very much for joining us through this journey. That's all for us. Good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.